2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it.
Does my life purpose affect my weight?
Wow, that's a fascinating question, Tyler. It's going to be a good one today.
Yeah.
So, but before we jump into that, talking about life purpose, we have something coming up that is going to be awesome. It's our Rising Sun Conference, and this is for Christian men who are ready to kind of go to the next level. They're done feeling depressed, stuck in their addictions, and want to figure out their masculinity, their life purpose, want to be free from the shame, and come experience something different. So, Tyler, why don't you tell them why we've set something like this up?
Yeah, Brandon, we've been in this work long enough to realize that, you can come and do talk therapy for years and years and years, and that's never quite enough unless there's something that happens from the inside out, which is an emotional shift. And sometimes that shift takes certain specific emotionally corrective experiences and moments. And you and I have seen that for long enough. We've been around it long enough, and we both have passion for trying to help men become better men and step into their true purposes, who they are. And so this event is designed to have some real experience with having some of that emotional shift take place.
So in other words, Tyler and I are sick and tired of just sitting in our offices talking to men about their problems and their lack of purpose in their lives. And we're ready to help you experience and shift into something different. This conference it's not child's play. It's not going to just be a walk in the park. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be fun. It's going to be adventurous. It's going to be awesome so that you actually experience connecting to God, nurturing your relationship with Christ, and really understanding your nobility and who you really are as a man. And so we invite you to come. Go check it out at risingsunconference.com. That's rising, SON, conference.com. And you can sign up there. So please go check it out. Space is limited, so first come, first serve. All right, let's dive in. Joan,
right.
welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening, Joan was on our show in 2020, and we had an awesome episode with you, Joan. Glad to have you back. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how things have changed in your life and then jump into the next question you've got. So Joan, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself again and your question and any backdrop that's going to help with our discussion, and we'll get started today.
Okay, thank you. My main concern is that despite being in recovery since about 2007, I have still not maintained a healthy weight. And I was looking at my notes from a previous podcast that the two of you did, where you explained what addiction is in a nutshell. And so I thought maybe to start our conversation, I would just go over that briefly to help the listeners kind of understand where I'm headed. And so so addiction in a nutshell is the three things that created it, at least according to my notes, are first, you have an attachment disorder that usually starts in childhood. And so there's some associated pain and negative core beliefs that come along with that. And so in order to deal with that pain, we have number two on the addiction list is we have a lack of healthy coping, because we don't understand usually as children how to tolerate these uncomfortable feelings. And so we choose a way to try to escape or postpone that pain. And I felt like in the podcast that I did where I was your guest back in 2020, we did address those first two steps. And the third step of addiction is that we have a lack of purpose. And that is where I feel like I'm at right now. I have actually done some very deliberate things to create a purpose for myself, and I'm excited about those things. But one thing that I'm running into now is I am finding it is very clear that in some places I have a history in my family, not so much my husband and children, but in my extended family, certainly, and sometimes even with friends and in my church community, that I have a lack of boundaries. And that I also have noticed that as I study shame, that it's showing up everywhere in my life. So for instance, if I even think about, earning money and then I get scared by thinking, what if I earn more money than somebody in my family? Or, what if I wanted to buy a nicer home or wear beautiful clothes? Just small, sometimes they're very small things. And so I saw also that the counter to these addiction, or the antidote to these things, is, for instance, the antidote to attachment disorder is having vulnerable connection. The antidote to the lack of healthy coping is developing a tolerance for pain. And then the antidote for the lack of purpose is having a purpose and finding that fulfillment. I remember one of the podcasts, Tyler was talking that he was telling a story about the fact that he realized he had a problem when the most exciting thing that happened in his day was when one of his appointments was canceled and he got to go across the street and get a pop. And that's when he told that story, I was thinking about the fact that I really related with that, because sometimes the best thing in my day was that I had a handful of chocolate chips, so I realized I need more out of life than chocolate chips. So anyway, I'm kind of in that process, and I was just wondering if, so I'm interested to talk to you about boundaries and also shame and how they relate to that as you go into the process of finding your purpose.
This is awesome, Joan. You've done a lot of listening and taken a lot of notes.
I love topics where they hit home for me, and rather than me just being the complete expert, it's more me being. We can explore together. We can learn together. We can process this together. Because, man, I do love a handful of chocolate chips or a soda between sessions. So, in fact, just across the hall right here, I walked in and my assistant has put bowls of candy and donuts and drinks and everything. So, there it is. It's like, I want to just go indulge. And before we demonize food or anything like that, let's just acknowledge how great food is. It's amazing, and it's wonderful, right? But it becomes problematic. When does it become problematic, Joan? When you're talking about purpose, when does it become problematic?
So, I think it's problematic. Well, first of all, I would like to agree with you. As I've studied nutrition and health, and I was raised in a home where I was fed really delicious, healthy food. But what I've realized as I've studied, or as I've listened to other women talk about their relationship with food, is that it seems to be a quick fix. So it's, gosh, it doesn't take any kind of difficulty on any level almost for me to just feel like I need to put something in my mouth to comfort myself. And even when I'm not hungry. And so I think that is how I gradually have gained weight. And also part of my purpose is getting my bachelor's degree. And so I was in a semester of school from January to April, and I gained 11 pounds during that time. And that's a sharp gain for me. So I believe that, and I'm not just constantly stuffing my face. I shared last time that I've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and it's a condition brought on by some unhealthy eating, but also by some of the stress that your body has gone through. So I'm trying to learn how to manage the stress, so sometimes I don't know where to start. Like, I want to study more and I want to achieve this purpose, but then I also feel like maybe I'm doing that too much and actually bringing on too much stress. And so I guess I'm trying to find that balance between reaching for those, reaching that goal, but also not putting my body under with, having so much cortisol flooding through my body that it can't heal. And so, anyway, so.
This is an interesting question. This is an interesting question, Joan, because what I'm hearing you say is that you agree that finding your purpose is going to be part of the recovery process and being able to live a life that's more whole and complete by pursuing that purpose. And yet, as you start to do that, you're adding stress to your life, which is then contributing to the very thing you've been trying to climb out of for a long time, which is your weight.
Yes, you summarized that very well. Thank you.
Well, Joan, the way you asked that question was really interesting, because to me, to be honest with you, when you were done with the question, I was overwhelmed, and and the reason I'm telling you that is because I think that's how you feel probably a lot. It's like, hey, I use food to numb stress. I also use food to numb out the fact that I don't feel a ton of purpose in my life, or that I feel taken advantage of because I'm lacking boundaries. In a moment, I can eat that handful of chocolate chips and like the world's right. Everything's okay. And whether it's I'm numbing my emotions, or I'm lacking purpose, or I don't have boundaries, or this whole conglomerate of things that I just feel like, life is hard and I'm not happy. For a moment, I get that dopamine hit from that chocolate, and it's like, okay, I can live life. Everything's okay. And so I think your question's actually really good, because I think a lot of people can relate to, where do I begin? Like, where do I begin? And where most people begin is they start with shooting on themselves and shaming themselves to try to lose weight, which actually just perpetuates the problem even more. They're focused on every pound that they gain. They're focused on every calorie that they eat. And they're don'ting themselves. Don't gain weight. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And their recovery doesn't happen from their food addiction that way. And they still feel overwhelmed. So does that make sense?
Yes. And so one of the things that when I'm studying the work of, I've been listening to a business coach, and her name's Rachel Rogers, and she does a podcast called Hello 7. And one of the things that she talks about a lot is one of the first things that we have to do is set up boundaries, and then also deal with the shame that we experience. And so she says, as you set those boundaries up, and I imagine some of those are with my own self in my relationship to food. Because if I'm not setting boundaries for other people, I'm also not setting boundaries for myself.
Right.
Maybe. So, and she says, and she really focuses on saying no when you feel no. And I've also heard the two of you talk about that. And I'm also reading a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And she talks about the same thing. I just find it interesting that these kind of the way out is setting those boundaries and also dealing with the shame that you feel as you go along.
But Joan, the boundaries, and I hope people can understand this, the boundary portion of it is many times misinterpreted. And in terms of, I have to have structure, and so I have to have certain boundaries that I can't do certain things, right? I think that's okay, but a lot of times boundaries are encouraged from therapists, from life coaches, from whomever, and they're boundaries from a place of fear and control, and that even applies to yourself. Mm-hmm. And a real healthy boundary is when you're powerfully stepping into your authenticity. So it's not that you're forcing yourself to do anything. It's I'm actually acting from a place of love toward myself and others.
Yes.
And that's why I'm doing this thing. Not because I'm too fat and now I can't eat after 9 o'clock at night. That would be a force and control thing. Whereas I believe that I'm a healthy person that has gained some weight. And so I'm going to act like a healthy person, and I love myself. So I'm not going to eat after 9 o'clock at night, right? Do you see the difference?
Yes. And she said also one thing that she brought up that I think that you would agree with is that boundaries never are formed in order to make someone else suffer.
Yes.
Just saying so for instance, an example she uses is if my partner does not do the dishes after I've cooked a meal, then I don't tell him that I can't go to the concert with him because I'm not going to punish him that way. Mm-hmm. So it's not meant to make others suffer. It's simply saying, this is what I can do. And then as we get rid of some of the things that we can't do, we have a time to develop our purpose. Do you think that's right?
Exactly. Yeah. So this kind of goes along with what Brannon was saying, and what you're saying is that the right boundaries actually come from a knowledge of who I am. Yeah. So if I am being honest with myself and who I am, then I can make my boundaries based off of my values as a person, the things that are important to me, my principles, rather than out of fear. So when that happens, now I can look at those things. And yeah, even the thing with like going to the concert or whatever, it's like, well, you may still not go to the concert, but it's not to manipulate him. It's because your values would say you don't want to go with somebody who's not going to respect you.
You're acting
right?
From a place of love for yourself.
Right. It's so once you're in that place of knowing who you are and then acting from the place of love for yourself, then yes, you're going to start doing things that are going to feed more of who you are. And then I guess what you're saying, Joan, is that's then where you might open up space for more of your purpose. Right. But you're going to be more in touch with your purpose because you're moving into that space of knowing who you are.
Yes. And then also what you've said in the past is that opening up that space makes it so that you get rid of, so with an addiction, with the chocolate chips, There's nothing that feels better than that chocolate chip. But actually, when you're creating the purpose, then you start finding things that do feel better than the chocolate chips, like consistently, like, oh, I'm sure it's a gradual process. That's what I'm imagining it is. I'm kind of, I'm still kind of walking that line just a little bit. But anyway, so your life becomes full of things that make you happy.
It's interesting treating sex addiction, because sex is such an important part of being a human. And so to treat something that is natural for a human being to do, and try to get them to stop doing a lot of those things is interesting, because God made us to be sexual beings. And so you look at food, it's very, very similar. We're not talking about you sticking a needle in your arm, Joan. We're talking about you eating calories, right? And so it's this thing where it's like we have to get to a place of self-acceptance and love for ourselves, of it's okay that I want to eat. And it's actually okay that I enjoy bad food for me, because that's how I'm designed. I love cream and sugar, right?
And carbs, like
yeah, like bring it. Like I love that stuff. But we need to, the way out of an addiction is what you're talking about, Joan, in terms of really shifting the inputs in your life so that you live a life that's balanced and a life that you really don't want to escape. But then also having that space where you do accept who you are. And when you can accept who you are, you'll have more power to make certain choices. When you reject who you are and you feel like I got to change, I'm not okay. If you keep telling yourself you don't have purpose and you're not okay, Joan, you're going to keep feeling that way. Right.
Yeah. Could I use, Joan, your example of just kind of what you were describing to kind of illustrate what Brannon's saying? You said you've been doing all of this work, and it sounds like you've been a work in progress with some pretty intentional work for a while now. You can hear it in your voice. You can hear it even between calls. You found that in part of the recovery that you're trying to figure out is that you found that part of your purpose is that you need to go back to school, right? Yeah. That's awesome. You found that, you've uncovered that, and you stepped yourself into that place where you just got done with the semester of school. And as a result, you gained 11 pounds. Right. But here's the difference. And I think this is where the next kind of step is in terms of what we're discussing right here is that, that in essence, you've been called into whatever it's going to take to get into school. And I don't know what that means for you in the grand big picture. But then coming back to what you're saying about boundaries is that, okay, now I've got habits of coping with stress that aren't going to lead to my overall goals anymore. So now I'm going to set boundaries around those patterns of coping with stress so that I can continue to go to school and I can develop my ability to handle stress, and I won't continually, go back to the bag of chocolate chips more than I should. Because it's going to fall in line with my purpose. So I'm going to create some space, but I'm going to set those boundaries now according to the fact that I'm pursuing my purpose, instead of using that as almost the excuse because I can't trust myself and now I'm gaining weight again. Does that make sense?
Yes. I think also, that's one, I keep having a red flag in my mind. I just maybe want to go back to what Brannon said for just a moment about food, is that I agree completely. There's nothing wrong with chocolate chips or cream and sugar or any of those things. And I actually believe that they were put on earth to bring us joy, because they bring so much pleasure. And mm-hmm. I think that we need to use them wisely. They're a resource that we can use wisely. And I get really suspicious of certain diets that only require you eat certain things. Even I really, truly am grateful for food. But I believe also then what you were saying, Brannon, is that I need to use that. I need to know in my own heart when I am using food in the wrong way, and then when I need to when I can, sometimes I'll be using it to nourish myself, and then sometimes I'll be like using it. I need just to be aware of when I'm using it in an unhealthy way and set that boundary with myself. Did I say that back correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me give you an example of that. Just happened yesterday for me. Okay, we have in our office here, we have like a cabinet with like a whole bunch of snack options, and there's some really healthy ones, and then on the top shelf there's all the unhealthy ones, and of course the top shelf clears off a lot faster than everything else does. Sure. And I came into work yesterday and I was feeling a little bit stressed out, and before even my first appointment, I went to the top shelf and I grabbed a Snickers bar. And I sat down, I started eating it, and I got about my second bite in, and I stopped myself for a second. I said, Tyler, why are you doing this? And I said, oh, well, because you're stressed out about this and this and this in your day, and you're stressed out about these couple of clients that you're going to be seeing today, and you're a little bit worried about that. And as soon as I made sense of like what I was actually stressed about, I asked myself, is this Snickers bar really going to provide for me what I need it to? And the answer was no, it's not. And I found that I actually ended up like spitting out my mouthful and throwing the rest of the Snickers bar in the trash and feeling like totally fine. That like, yeah, I don't need that right now. Whereas in the past, that would just be this automatic thing that's just like, I'm not even in touch with what my emotions are, what I'm feeling. And I'm going to satiate it because I know that's how it fixes me. And it's going to be automatic, and it'll be 3 bites and I won't even enjoy it. It'll be gone. And so that mindfulness of going, okay, yeah, I know what I'm doing now. And is this going to be effective for me in the long run? For my overall goals, a Snickers bar first thing in the morning probably isn't going to meet my long-term goals. So, but now I can make that decision back in touch with my long-term goals instead of just like either shaming myself into saying, oh, you suck, Tyler. You literally just ate a Snickers at 10 in the morning, or like not even being aware of it and being so unconscious of it that I'm 4 Snickers bars in by noon, and didn't even realize that I've been just eating my feelings the whole time.
Yeah, those are great examples.
I'm reading a book. It's a really kind of deep, random book, but it's good. It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And he's the guy that wrote Think and Grow Rich back in the I think it was the 20s. Mm-hmm. And anyways, part of his book, he talks about gluttony, and he talks about how gluttony is one of the devil's greatest tools to help people not live their purpose. And it's interesting that you're coming on with this question, Joan, because that got brought up in some things I was reading this week. But it's interesting if you think about it. What does gluttony have to do with my purpose? Can't I eat the chocolate chips, gain the weight, and still change the world and have purpose at the same time? How does the overeating get in the way of purpose? What do you guys think?
I have a thought on it, Brannon. If we're in touch with our purpose, we're back in touch with who we are, who I am is in the sense of God's eyes. So if I'm actually overeating, I'm actually not in touch with who I am because I'm mistreating myself in a sense. Even though it feels good, I'm mistreating myself, which means I'm not really in touch with who I truly am. My identity is now being moved back into a place of mistreating myself instead of treating myself properly because of that knowledge.
Yeah. I'll say it this way. It's like when we indulge, it gets to this place where we really are numbing our lives out. We're just looking for an escape from feeling. And if we're numbing our lives out, then how do we give chance to fully realizing our life and living our life? And so I realize I'm saying this, and most of us out there are overeaters, and most of us out there are numbing our lives out. And I'm not trying to shame anybody and saying you're gluttonous people who don't live purpose, but I do think there's truth in what he's saying. And Joan, I think there's truth in what you're saying, is that if we don't, what food addiction's like any addiction.
Yes.
And so just because it's food doesn't mean that it's not going to take a big portion of our life away from us, just like any other addiction will. So
I have a quote that I heard yesterday. It is by Susan Hyatt, who she speaks on this subject. And can I read that?
Please.
Just a couple sentences long here. She said, as long as you are distracted by how much you shrink your body, you are not expanding your life or your bank account.
Interesting.
We need women focused, not distracted. And I find so many things in common with people that suffer from other types of addictions. I think it is such a distraction from, that's where, the evil forces of the world want us to be distracted, right? They don't want us to be in our purpose. They don't want us to feel God's love for us or any kind of direction from him. And I just think that I think one of my problems is I have thought for so long, I have to get healthy before I can do anything great, before I can step into my purpose. Who's going to want to interact with somebody that is not the right way? I'm just not going to be bringing my best self. Well, maybe I'm not bringing my best self. That's true. But I still feel like we can step into that purpose. And what I'm hoping will happen is that will expand and fill me in a way that I have used food to fill myself in the past. And maybe there's going to be some people that won't want to associate with me because I'm overweight. But hopefully I can find enough people that I can go ahead and move forward in that without, I can feel the shame coming right now, even as I say that. So as I move forward, that I can find people who will associate with me that, so that I can do some good. And then whether I lose weight or I'm ever the perfect health, at the perfect weight, is kind of not even important. Is that true?
One of the greatest fallacies in recovery is that line you just used, Joan, which is, as soon as I've got sobriety for 6 months, or as soon as I lose my weight, or as soon as I kick my habit, then I'll go out and I'll tell everybody, and then it'll be wonderful and they'll love me. And the truth is that it's already coming from a shame-based place when you're looking at it through that lens. And it is going to be a risk. Yeah, you're going to have to put yourself in the arena, but that's what life demands. That's how you're going to find the right connections. And you're probably going to have to sift through some people who can't tolerate their own shame and who don't know how to make those connections, but you're going to find the right people who do. And those connections are going to help contribute to what we call emotionally corrective experiences. And those emotionally corrective experiences are going to give you a chance to go, oh, like I'm still lovable. Like, we could have a guy come into group and tell the group his disclosure, which is a list of all the ways that he's kind of messed up in his life. And he's so afraid to say that, but by the time he leaves, he's got 5 guys hugging him, 2 guys crying with him, and a bunch of guys saying, me too. And when he walks out, he leaves with an emotionally corrective experience as a result of having stepped into the fear he has, and then letting people love him as a result of his vulnerabilities. And Joan, what I think you're describing is the same thing. You said, my shame's coming up right now. It's like, well, why is it coming up right now, Joan? It's because there's a call to action going on inside of you right now that's telling you that you know the truth of what you should be doing. And the fear is trying to paralyze you from making those changes. And the fear has a little bit of truth in it because there's some risk you'll be rejected, but it's the way. It is the way through.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Joan. So I'm about, I'd say 35 pounds overweight. And I had a really tasty chocolate donut for breakfast. a Dunford donut.
Gotta love Dunford.
Yeah, it was good. I walked into the office. There's donuts in there, and it was good. I wish I had some milk with it. So here's my question for you, Joan. Should I shut up? Should I not have this podcast? Should I not do therapy? Because I'm 35 pounds overweight and I ate a donut for breakfast. What do you think?
Well, I think we both know the answer is absolutely not. I'm sure glad you showed up today because I could use the things that you learned. Yeah.
So think about it. It's easy for you to see that in me. Like, it's kind of obvious, right? But as you were talking about your weight, like, I can hear the depths of shame there, of how defining it is to you. And, you might eat healthy, Joan. I hate to say this, but it could happen. You might eat like really, really healthy and not lose any weight.
Yep.
And maybe that's the way God made you. Maybe that's the way your body's supposed to be. And so the gluttony goes away, but the weight stays. And so there's this interesting thing that we do. It's let me be perfect enough, and then it's the unvulnerable way to live our purpose. Let me prove myself enough and be perfect enough, then I'll jump in the arena. And it's usually backwards. It's let me jump in the arena, get kicked around a while, show you how out of shape I am and not ready I am for this, and then I'll become strong, and then I'll know how to actually navigate this and kick butt in this arena, because I'm not perfect. And that's kind of but the shame will tell you, nope, we got proof here. You have weight. So just hold off. Just starve yourself a little longer. And then the addiction will come back and you won't starve yourself, and then you'll never jump in the arena. Right?
Yeah.
So I think go ahead, Joan.
That perfectionism can completely shut us down, and it's not helpful to anyone who, when you said maybe when you were saying, sorry, I'm going to cry here, so I'll just keep talking through the tears.
It's okay.
So when you were saying that I would maybe never lose weight, that is very possible. I may have to do my life's work with, carrying extra weight. Mm-hmm. And won't that make me so much more approachable to people that also suffer? Because it's not very helpful to talk to people that have never suffered and that don't have any kind of compassion to offer you. Isn't that when we are with people and we're trying to help each other, because that's what it boils down to for me, is just trying to reach out to help other people. If we're going to sit with them, like I'm thinking of a video that Brene Brown makes. You've referenced her before, and she's in there's this little video. There's a fox. I can't remember, but anyway, it's this hole, and somebody's sitting there in that hole, and in that space, and then somebody climbs down, and she was trying to show in this video the proper way to sit with other people who are suffering, and it is just to simply go down and be there with them, and to not try to improve them or try to say, and you've addressed this also, not trying to say, oh, it's going to be better. You can just sit with them in their pain. And if you have never experienced that, then you cannot. Is it possible to have empathy without that, without suffering yourself? So you're right. I guess if God asked me to do that, then I need to, just be healthy and try to not use food as a crutch and proceed onward and upward, right?
I hope the listeners can feel the difference in the energy in your voice in what you just said, Joan, versus what you said a few minutes ago. Brannon mentioned this idea of you've shed the gluttonous lifestyle and yet you haven't lost the weight. And then I pictured you putting yourself in that place and saying that might be possible. And you'd be living from a wholehearted place at that point. You would be living from a place of saying, I have shed the gluttonous lifestyle and yet I maybe haven't lost the weight. And what would that allow me to do? That would allow me to actually maybe still stay in my purpose and actually connect with people if that were the case. I have a feeling it probably won't be the case, but it could be. But either way, the target moved to living a wholehearted life instead of losing the weight. And when you've stepped into living a wholehearted life, it allows you to operate from your purpose, even if you don't get all of the outcomes that you think you had previously, specified as what success was going to look like. And you can feel it even in your response right now, Joan. That emotion that's coming out is more authentic. It's real. It's got you back in touch with what your purpose was in the first place.
Yeah. I think that when we talk about purpose, you can go to school, you can get a degree, you can lose weight, you can do all these things, but the reality is you're living your purpose when you realize what God has made you for. And what that means is so if you have weight and you have shame because you have weight, then you're caught in the fog. What that means is that if I lose the gluttonous lifestyle, but I don't lose the weight, then I accept that this is the way that God has made me. And I don't go to this place of like, woe is me, I guess I'm just the fat one that can, really empathize and relate to other people who struggle with weight. It's far beyond that, Joan. And I know this might sound so idealistic and cliche and all these things, but the fact of the matter is it's loving it. This is who God made. I am beautiful. I am okay. I don't just wallow in shame because I can't lose this weight. I fully accept that I am what I am. And when we can get to that place, that's where all kinds of doors open up. All kinds of things start to happen. I had in high school, there was a girl who was, by society standards, quite a bit overweight. And she was confident, and everybody loved her, and she was beautiful in so many ways. And what was so beautiful about her was how vibrant she was, despite all of the so many other girls. They called our high school like anorexic high. It was like all these other girls wallowing in their shame, and she was just like, here I am, like this is me, right? And so I know what I'm saying is hard to get there. I know that Satan has kicked the crap out of so many people, especially women, when it comes to weight and shame. But it's not impossible. So,
Brannon, I want to give our listeners some extra credit with what you were just saying. Everyone's familiar with the show, The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
You're
gonna sing the song? Please sing the song.
should I just do a little karaoke for you guys right now? That would actually probably go the wrong direction, because that's not who I was designed to be by God. But I'm thinking of the video clip of the story behind the song, This Is Me. And if you go to YouTube and actually look that up, you get to see a little bit of the story behind the song, and it's kind of illustrating almost exactly what you just described, Brannon, which is once you're able to step into that place of just being real with who you are, and then allowing that to then be the place where God can use you.
But Tyler, I would say, so we watched that clip in my group 2 weeks ago, and we did it very intentionally. So what I would say is, don't just pull it up on your phone, while you're driving, or stop and try to feel with her and with Hugh Jackman as he's getting up, dancing and stuff. Feel that energy, because feel what she's actually saying and what she's actually singing, because that is what I was just talking about.
Yes.
Right.
I've seen that clip, and and you can see as Hugh Jackman stands up, he's like, this is the moment we're trying to capture for the entire movie.
Yeah.
And that's probably why it's such a great movie, is because they did it. They did it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will make that my goal right there. That feeling. I've been around people like you described in the woman that was in your high school, and I've been around people like that, and it's a wonderful experience to just to see them and to see how happy they are. And I want to be that type of person.
Joan, here's the thing is like when I got on here this morning and I saw you on here, you know what I thought?
What'd you think?
I just thought, sweet, we got Joan again. Like she's authentic, she's vulnerable, she's courageous. And here's the thing, you already are her. You already are like her. You just don't fully like realize it and know it. There's just a little bit of shame there. There's a little bit of blockage saying, no, I got to change. Something needs to be different. You don't need to change. You're already there. And I just appreciate you bringing this energy of vibrance and courage onto the podcast today. Not many people want to talk about weight, right? So I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I want to echo those same sentiments, Joan. I didn't recognize your name, but I recognized your face when you got on the call with us today. And I instantly was excited to be able to talk with you because of how I felt the last time. And I think Brannon's right that even doing what you're doing today, being on the show, talking about these things, has you probably in the element of who you are and what some of your purpose is. And the only thing that you're missing is the ability to accept it.
Yeah.
And that's going to come through that continued work on shame resilience.
Yeah. Thank you. It's wonderful to have someone reflect a vision like that back to you. And thank you so much. Thank you both of you for those kind words. I really appreciate it.
Joan, keep up the good work. And I was going to say, I really want to taste your cookies one day, but that would kind of go against everything we've talked about. You having boundaries and
us having boundaries.
So let's forget the cookies.
My husband's Dutch oven cooking is really fabulous.
There we go. Now you're talking. Yes. So, all right, Joan. Hopefully this is not the last time you come on, and we really appreciate you.
Thanks so much. You guys have a great day.
You too. We'll
Joan.
see ya.
Does my life purpose affect my weight?